Hey, welcome everybody. YouTube, what do you get? YouTubers, YouTubites. Brad Scow along with Nate, Austin, and Steve Wright, usual cast of characters, MSP Growth Kit webinar. It feels like it's been a while since we've done one of these, but I think Nate and Steve and I have been kind of traveling the world. It feels like the last month or so, talking with folks, which we always love to do, sharing what we've learned. But we're back. We're back for another half-hour show, and we're gonna remind you of the resources that have gone into all this, that we spent a lot of time building at hub.connectwise.com/growth-kit. All kinds of templates, some white papers, some guidance, things that will get you started growing sales inside your organization, and making that happen. So make sure if you haven't already, go download that growth kit. We have a LinkedIn group, MSP Growth Community, that's out there. And then of course we have this YouTube channel. And if you have not already, smash the subscribe button. Don't just gently click, like, commit and smash the subscribe button. And it's kind of a milestone thing. We've been talking about it now for a while. We hit triple digit subscribers, 100 subscribers. I feel like there's some confetti there. It should be moving at this point, where we don't have the budget quite yet for animated graphics, but it's kind of there. There's some movement, there's some energy right there with 100 subscribers. I think with YouTube, when you hit triple digit subscribers, I think they send out like some Q-tips or something to the people that, recognize that you're good. Like, you got enough. People need to clean their ears because you have something to say. Congratulations, guys, on 100 subscribers. It's it's fun.
Yeah, it's been exciting. Right. Thanks for the support. Right. I mean, it's just a start, but I mean, we love it. I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, it's something that we talked about last year after doing round one of kind of the growth kit. We're like, how can we extend it beyond connecting with people at the conferences, right? So we're like, hey, let's try and do some YouTube something to see if we can get some of this content out that can be shared. So thank you very much for smashing the subscribe button.
Smashing. And as promised, you guys have committed. Committed to getting the Get Along shirt, and wearing this at IT Nation Connect, where you're doing a pre-day and you're doing a session. So if you want a whole pre-day, half day worth of Nate and Steve talking through a lot of this stuff, that's happening Wednesday afternoon. And then you guys are doing a session sometime on Thursday or Friday. I haven't looked at the calendar to figure out exactly when that is, but Nate and Steve are there, and I think they're committed to wearing that t-shirt the entire event. Is that
whoa,
easy.
Or what are we doing with the shirt at the event?
I'm relatively sure that if we had to wear it the entire event, there'd need to be multiple get along shirts, because there'd probably be a fist fight in the middle of the get along shirt. So that probably wouldn't work.
And it probably wouldn't smell very good. No, but we got to coordinate schedules and figure that out. But look for us in the shirt. We love to get you to add it to the LinkedIn community and get some selfies with or ussies. Would that be ussies? Because it's two of us, ussies versus selfies, ussies in this Get Along shirt with anybody in the community. So look forward to seeing you all at IT Nation Connect.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into our topic for the day. Events and trade shows. And this is using events and trade shows inside your business, not like attending an IT Nation type event and trade show, but how do you leverage events and trade shows to help grow your business? And we're going to kind of break it down into three general topics, but we may bounce back and forth. How do you decide how much to spend? Like, what do you need to get out of it? What are the tips to success? And then what are some of the critical behaviors that have to happen? Excuse me. And like I said, I think we may bounce around a little bit around these three topics, but that's what we're going to do. So let's just start with the first one. Budgeting for events. Like, is this a line item in your budget? Nate, I'm going to start with you. Like, do you have a plan? Do you have a set group of events? How do you pick the right ones and figure out how much you're going to spend on these things?
Yes, we do. Of course, the part of the challenges with some of these events sometimes is that we do try and build out a known event budget. So like if there are events that we've done before, trade shows we've done before, and we know that we plan on doing them again, we budget for them. but I would recommend adding some extra in your budget for events that will come up that you aren't aware of, or even for attending some events, because we actually sometimes we'll see an event pop up and we're like, we're not sure if that's going to be the right fit for us. Hey, grab a couple sales team members or a marketing person and go attend to see if it's a good event, and then you might determine that we're definitely going to put this in our budget and sponsor next year. So that's one little tip. But I think the other thing that for me is really important is who is the audience of the event. Now this depends on like your target client profile, but for us, we look for trade shows that attract a local audience. There's a couple of them that we've gone to that it's a national conference that happens to be in our geography. And so we're careful about those because A, they're usually way more expensive, and B, most of the audience there is not going to be a target client for us because they're not based in our geography, which is what we really target. Doesn't mean we can't ever serve them, but in general, we want to target folks in our geography. So that's a couple of the nuggets that I have from targeting those. And I don't know, sometimes I'll just throw out a number. We see some trade shows that are probably reasonable to go to in the $2,500, $3,000 or less is a very common trade show booth. If you get a trade show that's asking you for again in the SMB, right, for 10 grand or more, chances are it's going to be a national audience, and it might not be even the best fit, even though there might be more attendees.
Yeah,
Steve, I don't know what your thoughts.
Well, this is one of those weird places. I have a nationwide sales team on a couple of the solutions that we sell, not inside of the MSP space. And so, I got a lot of lessons. Do we budget for it? Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know, probably $500,000 by the time we add it all together. It's like really big budget. But to your point of the nationwide audience, I would say the other part of this is like if the booths start approaching those numbers, we will not stand out even in a nationwide audience. And some of these big shows, I mean, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 is not, crazy for what they ask. And so when we start seeing that, we realize that we're just not going to stand out. And so, having this little tiny booth in the corner sitting over, like, probably won't do it. But one of the things you mentioned, Nate, that I really like that I might take and expand on is you said send a marketing person, send a salesperson to attend. And so we do that a lot, even at the larger things where we're not going to stand out, but we'll be an attendee that we're rubbing elbows with all the other people because, we want to be, we don't want them to not to be there either.
Mm-hmm.
And so making sure that we're utilizing that at, to your, couple $1,000s versus, tens of thousands of dollars. So we definitely do that. And we absolutely have a budget. And the local stuff that we do more for the MSP, which we're going to get more into the details, how to stand out becomes so key. And you do have to budget a bit for that, right? Like silly things like carpet cost $250 and electricity $500. And you're just like, okay, if I'm paying for power, it's not to charge somebody's cell phone. It better be, I better attract, $5,000 worth of new business just to pay for the power in my booth, which is silly, but it's part of the deal.
Yeah, get specific. Name each of you. Name 2 or 3 shows like that you go to and why.
A couple of the shows, and we're in multiple markets, so we're not. We're kind of national, but it's more local based, right? So like we go to specific markets. So like in Minnesota and Colorado. In fact, even next week we're in San Antonio, and it's a medical and there's some legal. I think there's an interesting combination actually of what's going to be at this conference. But but we do like going to like the medical management group associations. Those exist in nearly every major market. So we love the medical ones. The nonprofit ones. I know some people think like working with nonprofits is not profitable, but I think we love going to the nonprofit associations. Again, every major market has some sort of association for nonprofits, and then some construction. We like construction, architect, legal, and sometimes you get into like financial planning is another one that you can work with. So those are some of the specific conferences that we find. Again, professional services is definitely like up our alley and our target client profile. So those are reasons why we go to those.
Yeah.
And I would, probably, exactly what Nate said. The things that we would add to is we have a couple customers that put on shows for their customers that would be target customers. So let me give you an example. Kansas Association of Independent Insurance Companies. That's a customer of ours, but also they sell to customers, target customers to us. So we get to support our higher level customer by being a vendor of theirs. And of course, that builds a strong relationship. And then we're selling into their customer base. So,
yeah. And that's actually a tip for finding events, by the way, even though I know that was not your intent, Steve, necessarily. But like we've found that asking clients of ours, like, so, hey, are there associations that you engage with that you like? We want to support your industry and that association in your industry that supports you. But if it's a good conference, if it's a good trade show, you feel like there's good engagement, we'd love to be there. We'd love to help sponsor and support it. So we've actually been able to find different ones, different conferences or associations that we participate in just by asking our clients what are good ones that they like.
Absolutely. And then, you get to speak and all that other stuff too, because you're an industry expert. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you've picked one. How do you design a strategy to make sure that the ROI is there? Like what does that look like for you guys? Steve, I'll start with you.
Sure. So one of the things that we absolutely do is every salesperson has a target list of people that they want to connect with. They may or may not even know, like they have no connection, but they know they're going to be at the conference, because when you are a booth member or whatever, typically you get the list before you get to the show. So I don't know these people, so I'm going to make sure I get connected with them and have a meaningful conversation. So you got to target out who you're looking for. Sometimes they come by your booth, sometimes they don't, like all that stuff. But a specific list of individuals that you know are going to be at the conference that you want to make sure that you get to meet on purpose. That's one of the things we absolutely do to make sure that we're getting the right people connected and the right leads connected. Nate?
Yeah, for us, I'm going to take a little bit different tack. We involve our marketing team to start because they're really responsible for, and so whether it's if you don't have a marketing team, someone, a coordinator, office manager, someone should help you with this if it's not the salesperson. Really try and collaborate on, okay, who's the audience? How are we going to draw, like, what's the call to action? What's the message we want to have at the booth? Because sometimes we'll focus on, 365 content. Sometimes we'll focus on security. Sometimes we'll do both. But like, what's the message, right? Even if it's a nonprofit, we have a sign that's like, join our community, right? We want to get people to participate, and so we try and think about, we make sure we have a conversation ahead of the trade show about messaging. How are we going to try and attract people? And that's part of it. Part of the budgeting, but it's really also about these marketing success tips section is that what are we giving away? And something that we've learned, and I really appreciate Stephanie. She kind of nailed this on our team. She identified that we've tried giving away like a service, for instance, meaning like, hey, we've done like do a 365 training or a co-pilot boot camp. We've done some stuff like that just to try and see, because it's exciting stuff. People are challenged with this, and we found that when it's something that benefits the attendee's company, we don't get as much engagement. If it's something that they personally get, like last time one of the last events we went to, we gave away a little electric scooter. Who cares? It has nothing to do with what we do, other than I guess it plugs into the wall just like our computers. But we got way more engagement because it's something personal that the people who are opting into whatever you're asking them to do, a list or whatever, will benefit from. So that's a little tip that we found. And then the last thing I would say from a marketing planning perspective is that we always do a postmortem. So after the event is done, we always say, well, what worked? What didn't work? Would we want to go back to this event again? Should we change anything? So we really try and capture that. And we have that on the calendar, and it's something that's done before and after with whomever's responsible, like the marketing entity, the sales team, and then the marketing entity after the fact.
Yeah. So I want to go back. I think Nate had some key points that, we're going to probably jump around on this thing all over the place. But first of all, like one of the things we give away that we're standardizing kind of going into next year is the big Yeti cooler. You can go to their website and like have them put your logo on it. And, they make a great thing for people to throw their business card in because they know exactly what they're going to win. Obviously, they got to be traveling local because you can't exactly stick with these monstrous Yeti coolers. But it's one of those things like I would never pay the $400 or whatever dollars they are for a Yeti cooler that they actually demand, but I sure the hell want one. So that's one of the things. And kind of to the other thing, we do themes on these. And so, for example, we have a booth coming up here in October where we're kind of known as the game people. And we always have a game in the booth. I think last year it was Pop-A-Shot. So, the nice thing about Pop-A-Shot is it keeps your score. And we put a leadership board on there, and people keep coming back, right? They want to know if their score is still the top score, and they're sucking other people in to have the conversation. Meanwhile, the salespeople have to be focused, like people are in line. So you got to be focused on why we're there, and it's not the game. Granted, we're going to have a conversation about the game, but keep it going. We've done the putt, like you lay out a little golf thing and those number of hole in ones in a row. We've done skee ball. That's a little more expensive because you gotta get it there. It's kind of loud. We've done all kinds of different kind of game type engagements, but the reason is people will stand there, they'll keep coming back, they'll keep engaging with a conversation, waiting in line to get in the score. That's one of the things we're known for. And then you can dress your team in referee uniforms or different aspects around the game, and people start talking about it, and because it's a little bit viral at the convention. They're like, what's your score at the right? But let's go back to that ROI conversation. And one of look, I think if you're not trying to speak at these industry events, you are failing. You should be submitting speak, cybersecurity, office, pick one of the topics that's most relevant to whoever you're going to. Then what you should be doing is driving the people that are at your speaking events, typically breakout, right? But not always, to your booth for something. We did what's called round to it. So you can search that up. It's a little wooden nickel, if you will. But if you come through the door at my speaking event, you get around to it, you get a special thing for visiting the booth, right? It might be a mug. It might be an extra shot at the game, whatever. But drive them from your speaking event to go see you. And you, as the speaker, need to be in the booth, right? That's one of the things we did. So I did a presentation earlier this year in Iowa where, part of the story was Cheryl's Cookies. I happen to love Cheryl's Cookies. They do logoed cookies, whatever. And so I took 100 cookies down to the booth and stop by the booth and I'll get you a cookie, right? And so, I ran out of cookies in no time. But we're driving people, we're driving conversations, we're driving presentations. We're inside of the presentation, you gotta have a landing site on your webpage so that they if they want your deck, they go to your website to get your deck. You may wall it, you may not, depends on how you want to roll. But the point is, all of those are marketing things that people like Stephanie are experts at. And if you don't have your Stephanie, you need to learn this. Because if you're showing up at the booth with your pens and I don't know, your phone, go home.
Yeah, Steve, the other thing you just mentioned I think is really critical is that try to find some way to get them a deliverable. So if you're presenting, whether it's the deck or if you have a handout or a guide, those are things that you can create. So hopefully if you did a good job presenting and you hit the nail on the head for the audience that you're speaking to, they're going to want your guide. And so sometimes we'll hand out a physical part of the guide in the session. We say, hey, if you want a digital copy of this, you got to do this or whatever, right? So it is an important thing, because again, you're not going to get everybody, but the subset of people that have that extra interest or raise their hand, you're going to be able to attract them. And you got to, if you don't provide a method to attract them, you're not gonna. And so just thinking through some of those different methods and try to raise their hand.
Here's how I measure it, Nate. I don't know about you, but I'm guessing it's the same way. If you've presented and you can't get out of the room, you've done well.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? That's success, because people want to ask you 1,000 questions. They want to get more input on something you said, but leave them hanging, right? You don't give the entire, but it has to be entertaining. It has to be engaging. It has to have content. You've got to have all these bullet points. And we could probably spend a whole nother one of these on how to present, right? There you go, Stephanie. There's another topic for the future. But,
right.
But look, if you're spending, the couple grand that we talk about to be in front of these audience, get in front of them and speak. Mm-hmm. And then what you have to do is make sure that your content's relevant, which isn't always as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, it's hard. The only last thing I'd say, and then Brad, I know you got some other questions for us, so we better shut up. But is that part of the budget and the approach is we talked about the giveaway, which is something that's important. You're paying for the booth, you're paying for electricity, all these things. The other thing you're typically paying for that can be easily overlooked and can be very expensive is swag. Are you giving away cups, T-shirts, pens, mugs, whatever that is? And again, the one thing about swag that is hard, but also it's like you get a better price when you buy in bulk. And so sometimes you're going to want to you're not necessarily buying for each event, but you're buying in bulk orders oftentimes. And a financial tip, if it's big enough and it's material enough, accrue that, right? So you can maybe spread it out the cost. You're not taking a big hit on your marketing budget one month, depending on how you do your budgeting. But
all right, Nate.
But yeah, swag's another thing.
All right, Nate. What's the good swag then?
We like to
am I asking him to give away the
no. We like to have fun. So one of our favorite ones that's worked is You're on Mute. So we have a You're on Mute T-shirt, and we have You're on Mute mugs. So you hold up. I wish I should have had one now, but we have mug. It's so that way when you're holding the mug like this, right? It says You're on Mute. So someone can be holding their coffee mug, drinking their coffee in the morning, but on a call like this and going like this to the person who's on mute on their call. So that was intentionally designed, and people love those things. So yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I love that. I'm still all over the board on what good is, to be completely honest. It changes literally.
It does,
show to show and whatnot. But one of the still most famous thing, those 3-inch square pads of paper with your logo on the side that lasts for years. You just peel off the top
Post-it notes.
Well, they're not Post-it notes. They're this tall. They might be Post-it notes, right? Right.
Okay.
And it says My Tech or Next Tech across the side, and maybe your support number or whatever. Those are pretty hot because first of all, they last for a year, and people come back to you because they're like, man, I love your paper. And I hate to say it, but the freaking mouse pad's still hot, right? People kind of went away from the mouse pad, right? And so, bringing back the mouse pad is still a pretty hot type thing. But even mice, questionable whether, let's see, look at that.
It's a little cell phone holder I have on my desk.
The little wireless charging things for your cell phones, all that stuff's pretty hot. And honestly, the difference between a shitty giveaway and a good giveaway is not a price thing most of the time. Sometimes, right? We, for targeted customers, we give away Yeti mugs, right? The whole legit,
something nice,
but those are $40 a piece. You better be spending money with me or signing a deal or something.
Right. Those are the great conversations that you have at the booth where you have it under the table and you're like, hey, here's one for you, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Is there an opportunity anymore to get solution partners involved with this, co-brand some of that swag you give away? Are you guys doing that still?
We don't co-brand as much, but but events and trade shows are definitely, thank you for bringing that up, Brad. That was something I meant to share, is that going to trade shows and booths where you get an attendee list or you get people subscribe, those are some of the known quantity kind of things that vendor partners are often willing to support with MDF. So absolutely. Versus sometimes you're trying to get creative with your different marketing campaigns and just to try and get in front of folks that you get these vendor partners are like, I don't know if they want to support that. But when you go to a trade show, it costs me this much money, I have a receipt for it, there's this many attendees, they're more willing to fund those kind of things in support of you. But we don't have to co-brand necessarily. That's not that big of a deal, I think, as much anymore.
Now, one of the things that's relevant to that too is, look, your time can go into those co-marketing funds. So if you have a Stephanie on your staff, her time to build, to get the booth put together, to, literally deliver it, to do all the email marketing, we build as part of our budget, we have that, but then we submit that to the vendors to say, look, this is a real cost. We have to put the show on, because typically they match at 50% most of the time. Right. And so make sure you put the giveaways, make sure you put the cost of the booth, make sure you put the people's time, put it all in there.
Yeah. All right. So we get paid. We got about 5 minutes left. Let's talk sort of tactical best practices, right? What are the do's and don'ts when you're at the show, standing at the booth, engaging with people? How do you train your people to do this well?
All right. This one's I got started, right?
Steve, I knew it.
For God's sake. Oh, if you're sitting behind a table, you're a fail. If you're standing behind the table, you're a D-. Like, you should be in front of the table, out engaging with something in your hand, something interesting to talk about, a product. Your booth should be on point too. What the hell do you do? Like, how many times do you walk by somebody's booth and you're like, I don't even know what they do? Put it out there, what you do. Make it simple. You don't have to. Yeah, see, like, are you going to engage with somebody that's like they're on their phone? No, they're going to keep walking. You have to drill it into your sales team that their expectation is to be on their feet, engage with the customer, having conversations. Lunch is not when they go to lunch. They better do it on, like when everybody's in session, or like, they better plan their stuff out. But this is a passion of mine. We spend so much time, money, and effort to get these people ready to go to a target-rich audience, and they're on Facebook. No. So making sure that you have very specific expectations of the team that goes on there. And for us, again, I have the team that travels, like the manager's there, and he is out there with them. He has communicated what success looks like. He has told them when they better be there. He's told them when the breaks are. He's told them what sessions they better attend. He's told them that for example, breakfast. His expectation is at a session that he goes to breakfast at 7 a.m. Why? Because these owners of the businesses or executives are at breakfast and there's nobody else there. Perfect time to connect. Lunch, they better be at the booth because people are cruising the booth. Like, all of that stuff is expected and clear and communicated. So that's my rant for the moment there, Nate. But anyway.
Yeah, I think even the way you just go back to where you just started, Steve, like standing in front of the table and all that. Like, whenever I get whatever, again, different conferences and trade shows, you have different space available to you. Yeah. I try and put the table instead of in the front. Sometimes I'll put the table on the side or in the back, right? So Absolutely. Like, you can't stand behind it. You can't sit behind it. Again, depending on the space you have. So you got to be careful with that. But yeah,
take it down. Get rid of it.
I mean, sometimes you got to have swag, or like you got a little QR code. You got to have something on there, right? But like, I hear you. I totally agree with you. Like, the whole point of sales is to get out there. I think one of the things that we've tried to do a better job of too is like, and we've started tracking this just this year, where we're trying to figure out of the conferences we go to, how many attendees are there, and depending on the number of attendees, we have a certain number of people from our team that we want to go. If that's a 1,000-person conference, one person at your booth is not going to be able to handle the traffic, right? So get 2-3 people at your booth to be like, no. And if it's a 100-person conference, maybe one person is fine, right? Yeah. So like, understand and pay attention to some of those things. The other thing we've started doing, and we started tracking, but we felt that a reasonable place to start was, all right, sales team, there's a couple goals and a couple little bit, salespeople are competitive. So try and, even if it's against themselves last time, the last conference we went to is one, trying to get, identify the number of meetings you want to get out of a conference. So that way in their head, they've got a goal of trying to find these conversations and have good conversations. So for us, we're like 1% of the attendees. Like, if there's 500 people, we want to try and get 5 meetings. Like, out somehow follow up, we want to get 5 meetings. So like that seems like a reasonable thing. And again, we're measuring it to see if that is a reasonable thing or if that's a regular thing. The other thing that we're measuring is registration. We always want to get people to like subscribe to our newsletter, join our community, do something where we're getting their email, so we can. And then we have a HubSpot sequence that actually kicks off as soon as they register. They get a sequence that says, "Thanks for joining our community," and they get a series of our top 5 topics or blogs or things that get the most interest, so you can tee that all up. But we have a competition for the most signups or the most emails given, and our sales managers and our different teams, like, they get competitive of like, you're gonna beat the last one. And so it's just some fun stuff like that to give some goals other than just showing up.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to finish with a story, Brad, because I apologize if I'm going to call this person out, but you were there, Brad. Yeah. So we were at an event 2 weeks ago, right? And Brad made a really big point of one of these businesses to capture my information. Right? You remember that? It was over a beer.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No one's followed up.
Yeah.
And because I shared my information, I didn't have that person's information to reach out. Yeah. So they spent thousands of dollars to be at this event to do exactly that. Brad put it on T, and we went home.
Yep.
Right.
I think that's Steve, where we put that post-mortem conversation. I said we have a marketing. Part of the post-mortem conversation is also that, making sure that the sales team and the marketing team, because ultimately the budget to go to a trade show comes from the marketing team.
Yeah.
So they want to follow up with the sales team to make sure the sales team has identified and is following up on the leads that came out from the event, so that we can justify going to that event in the future and make sure that we don't lose the value of those leads that we actually did bring in.
Yeah, I'll end it with this because we're out of time. But like, I'm such a believer in this that I take it as far. I look at, like, there's almost like a 50% degradation of the quality of the opportunity every day that passes after the event. Like, you're on an event high and the conversation resonates. The next day, it's like it's 50% of the excitement. 2 days later, it's 25% of the excitement. If you wait more than 2 days, it's like you might as well forget it. You're starting over, and you've lost the opportunity where the kind of chemistry can happen, and you got to spin it up again.
Or like Nate said, just set the damn appointment. I would say
right.
yes.
Just say, hey, listen.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay, we are out of time. But Nate, I don't know if you can, but throw the slide up again. Smash the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or find us on LinkedIn, or like we had a great opportunity if you're coming up. If you're going to be in Orlando and you're going to be at Connect, make sure that you track down Nate and Steve. They're doing a pre-day session that you can sign up for. I believe it's free. Just go and pay it, show up. They're going to be delivering their content, and they got a session they're going to do, and they're going to be walking around in a t-shirt. And just for a little, because I did it earlier, but like, it's just going to be interesting seeing the dynamic of them walking in that t-shirt, given some of the physical disparities between Nate and Steve. It's going to be worth it just to see how that part plays out.
I assume Brad's talking about hairlines.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep,
right?
I think that's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
When somebody's hairline moves shorter than the other person's.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of hopefully the 100. If not, smash the subscribe button. We will talk to you guys next month.
See you again soon.